Hi, and welcome back. And I hope you've enjoyed today because I'm sad to say, even though I'm putting a smile on bravely, it's all downhill from here weather-wise, at least through your weekend. No big surprise, but a few updates to speak of. It's hard to think that after a beautiful day like today, it's just, you rarely ever put the two words together, cold and wet, and it be a positive thing, and that's going to be the case with this weekend. We're talking about very cool air and very wet conditions still in store for your weekend, and I'll tell you more about it in just a few moments. I think the only good thing is that we've known about it long enough that prom goers have had enough time to maybe be prepared to whatever degree you can. As prom is, of course, this weekend in Montgomery County. Tonight's headlines will include, by the way, part of the show actually done, well, at least as far as one story, around 2 o'clock in the a.m. this morning. Lacey had orientation today at Morehead State University, which is where I've spent most of my entire morning and afternoon, but a little midnight oil last night allowed me to have some of our headlines in and ready to go, and indictments returned by a grand jury here in the area, also making headlines tonight as we've just put those together, and some other news and information. So any errors or bloopers tonight in regards to a lack of sleep, well, as always, as they happen daily, it seems as though I beg of your forgiveness ahead of time. With that said, we have a couple of things to talk about. As the indictments released pertain to mostly drugs, and most of those methamphetamine, we'll get to that in just a few seconds. Another drug-related story of a different type. The Kentucky State Police is again teaming up with the DEA to encourage everyone to remove any possible dangerous medicines from your homes and dispose of them safely, all as a part of the National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day. It's been set for this Saturday, next Saturday, the 29th. My apologies, I said that poorly. Nevertheless, prescription medications, as we all know, play an important role in our health, and they do in the millions and millions of Americans who take them. However, leftover or expired drugs can be harmful in so many ways. Older, out-of-date medications can degrade, lose their effectiveness. They also pose serious environmental pollution to water supplies if they're just thrown away or flushed or something of that nature. And unused medication in homes can also be accidentally ingested by children or intentionally ingested by children, stolen, misused, abused. Rates of prescription drug abuse in the United States, we still know, are still at alarming levels. According to the DEA, the majority of prescription drug abusers report that they got or get their drugs from friends and family, and that does include your medicine cabinet in your bathroom or wherever it may be. And that cleaning out old prescription drugs from medicine cabinets, kitchen drawers, or beside tables or on tables, wherever they may be, can reduce diversion, misuse, and abuse of those substances. During last year's National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day, in case you've forgotten, citizens across, this is across the nation, not just Kentucky, but across the nation, 447 tons of unneeded medications were turned in. Here in Kentucky, there were about 50 collection sites, and they had nearly 10,000 pounds last year. The Kentucky State Police collecting 946 pounds at their 16 post locations. The closest post to us, of course, Post 9 in Pikeville is a location. Post 8 in Morehead is another location. But each of the 16 Kentucky State Police posts is where you can take your medication on April the 29th. That's Saturday the 29th. One of any of those locations or any post that you may be near or around. But it is, again, 10 through 2, Saturday the 29th. I think you know me well enough if you watch this show over the many years that I've been here that I'm always very careful to make sure that we get everything right, accurate, fair, just, and honest, and then I wouldn't make any remark without having any evidence or information to, of course, sincerely and seriously back it up. And I have had, in the past few days and this week, more than enough confirmation to say the following with absolute certainty. Not through any form of any law enforcement whatsoever, but by several who have had either direct or indirect contact with on some level with the FBI, that the election fraud investigation is still ongoing in Montgomery County, and many have referred to it as being in high gear with much activity and many agents on the ground in Montgomery County this week, and expected to be that way possibly for the next several weeks as well. I've done a lot of research and a lot of questioning before I relay that information to you, but can say that with accuracy and some certainty, with great certainty tonight, that it appears as though the investigation, not appears though, but the investigation is indeed ongoing, and as a few people have referred to it once again as being in high gear at this point, and that's all we can elaborate on at this time. When we come back, Our two top headlines tonight will include a distinct honor for the McGoffin County Schools. I got to sit in on a webcast that they were a part of earlier this week, and Johnson County indictments. All that coming up and more in just a moment. To get high-speed internet on their state-of-the-art fiber optic network for all of your home and business solutions, or to watch TV without a contract on over 200 digital channels with superb quality, or stay connected with family and friends with 24/7 telephone service you can always depend on, contact Foothills Broadband today. Or just click on their link to the right to find out how they're working to provide the latest in communications at affordable prices with exceptional service at Foothills Broadband. Yesterday was a distinct honor and a first for the McGoffin County School District, and it's what will be a first for all of the Kentucky school districts that they are yet to visit. A webcast at the McGoffin County High School with local school personnel and leaders from the state level talking about a variety of topics affecting our school system and those across the state. And of course, my camera, as you're about to see, was the only one there. As McGoffin County Schools were honored yesterday to host the April broadcast of Kentucky's K12 Education Technology webcast. It was chaired by David Couch, a Johnson County native, by the way, who is the Associate Commissioner of Education Technology. He was joined by several associates, plus here locally, Superintendent of Schools Scott Hilton, Technology Director Jeff Salyer, and State Representative John Blanton.
It's kind of like game day if you keep up with like college football and basketball, where they go to a different university campus and highlight what that university is doing, but along talking about statewide issues and even nationwide issues. So we do the same thing, but in K12 in a school district. So I like to go to a different school district, much like we did today, highlight them, but also all during our webcast, as I'm talking about state and national types of things, circle back and get their perspective on that. And it's really fantastic. What we had today is not only the superintendent and the leader of the technology, but also the local legislator, because this webcast mainly goes to education technology leaders in districts. We probably have about 70-80% that watch it live, and another percent that watch a copy of it. So we're always interested in them from the different perspectives of the superintendent and legislature. We're talking about education technology. So this was a fantastic one that we had today, because we really had a good variety of folks and perspectives, and a new superintendent, new legislator, experienced education technology leader, as we were talking about some pretty important topics.
The webcast is viewed by the majority of the 173 school districts in Kentucky, about 70% or so live, and the rest that watch do so on a playback basis on the internet. And yesterday they covered topics from ECHO, the recent talent showcase at the McGoffin County High School, STLP, statewide, data storage, and an all-important topic of internet access.
Our digital readiness survey that we send out every year tries to find out what is the level of home access you have in the community. I think, Jeff, you estimated about 80% have high speed, 20% don't. That's great for that 80%, not great for the other 20%. So what can we do to up the odds of providing it, and then at affordable rates? And so you step in with Kentucky Wired and Representative Blanton. I know you're involved with some communities. They're actually going through the process now, trying to find that last mile, because I don't think folks understand, really Kentucky Wired is a middle mile network. Right. It still counts on someone locally putting in that last mile to the home.
Sure, absolutely. The city of Pipeline in particular, they are working on a bid process, finding that proper fit of that company that has the expertise and the skill to be able to run that last mile. And there's some challenges in that. Obviously, when you look at commercial buildings or you look at government buildings, those get charged at a higher rate than the homeowners do. And so being able to run that wire to these individual households and keeping the price down at a point where people can afford to have that access to that high-speed broadband, that is a challenge. But they are being successful up there. It's moving along very well. We also here in this county, we have Foothills that's working to see to it that broadband is available throughout this area. Sometimes there's challenges that are simply has to do with location. When you run a mile of the broadband, it costs as much for that company to run that mile if there's two houses on it as it does if there's 200 houses on it. So all those figures in rates, and what we're trying to do is get this last mile in to where homes can have access, but at a rate that's affordable. And when that occurs and we begin to see the high-speed internets that are out there today, you know, broadband is a broad term anymore because it's dependent upon the speed you have. Right. And so it opens up so many doors for students. You know, I can foresee the time when we no longer have a need for snow days in Kentucky, that they can do instructional time on the days it's snowing if we get access to all of our students. But also see, and we already see this, with a high enough access speed, people's going to be working from home for companies that aren't even located in this country. Right. And they're going to be able to do it because they have that last mile access right. into their homes. And Pikeville's been innovative in that. Foothills, Thacker Grigsby's, Gearhart Communications, they're trying to get Eastern Kentucky on that map of having access in that last mile to our homes.
And another topic that we'll cover, and another one close to home for Magoffin County schools and countless other school districts, is the need for more personnel in technology, where cutbacks have hit hard. A reality confirmed by Couch and Salyer.
It's definitely different. We've had to change the way we do things. You know, we depend on people doing a lot of things for free that they were normally paid for. And we do okay. I'm not going to complain. Don't get me wrong. I would love to be back to that 9 paid staff, but you know, I'm proud of my district.
And what he said there about being efficient, he came up through the time in the district, and I was here as well, and we had a lot of fun. And you get kind of the word, I guess, is spoiled when you can go out and you can do what you need to do. So it's been a real adjustment for us and our staff to understand that when you say we can't afford that. And in years past it wasn't that case, and it's hard for them to, and I'm not saying, I guess I shouldn't say hard, but it's been difficult for them to understand that this is reality now, but why we had it then. And it's not really anything that anyone done here. It's just a matter that our situations change.
This was a good example of a district. We were talking about just the personnel that's needed when you're doing a technology initiative, and the funding that's needed, because this was a good example of a district that before the housing market crash, there was a lot of positions in the technology positions. And then because of that, and then we saw that across the state they had to reduce those positions. So we talked about the impact of still buying a lot of stuff but not having the people to keep that up and reliable and making sure it's used in the instructional process. So this was a really good way, because districts, you know, we travel to certain districts, they've received no cuts. They've been in areas of the state that have not seen the apocalypse of coal jobs. And so when we talk about a reduction, that's something they don't see. So this was a district that has been directly impacted by that. So, and there's others in this area. So we wanted to carry that story of yes, there are people that are overcoming, but what can we do to address that? And one of our techniques to address that would be to address the funding aspect of it.
And for me as a new superintendent, you know, you talk about devices, and David mentioned about one-to-one devices in the presentation. I always, when I first came in, that was my initial. We need to make sure everybody has what they need. But today was a good learning experience for me, because it taught me about the human aspect is just as important as buying these devices. If we don't have the people that can train or take care of, make sure that they're being utilized to the best of their ability, then I'm defeating the purpose. I can buy all you want, but I'll be buying them back and again because we're not taking care of them, or we're not using them correctly, and then they're just sitting to the side. So as a district, it gave me a new way to start thinking and how I'm going to talk with our board and talk about, okay, yeah, we need this, but when we do funding, then I've got to figure out a way and look at potential funding to be able to put a person in a place. And what I really liked was he talked about using student help desk and having students and that's one of the areas that I'm going to really look into with Jeff and some of our school principals, of talking about, especially at the high school and middle school level, because the two gentlemen that they talked about, Neil Arnott and Matthew Bailey, they were students of mine at the middle school when they got into this technology part of it and working with Jeff. And I know how good that relationship can be, and we got to find those right people. So that's my goal this summer, is sitting down with people, and Mr. Meadows here and Mr. well, I can't say Mr. Johnson's probably going to retire at the middle school, so that's what's throwing me off. But those two gentlemen, along with Jeff, and trying to locate and narrow down some of our students that would make good people for these types of things to take place.
And I just want to add this little tidbit in closing. I got to meet Mr. Couch, and I learned a little bit about him. I mentioned that he was a Johnson County native. If he looks or sounds familiar, he had a younger brother, Joey Couch, that played football in Paintsville. David, he himself played basketball, went on to play basketball for West Point, and has had a really interesting and storied career thereafter. So just in case you were curious as to who that is, or if you thought you may have known, there you have it. I'll be right back after these messages. Several indictments returned by a sitting Johnson County grand jury yesterday, mostly dealing with drugs, and most of those dealing with methamphetamine. Maxwell Warricks of East Point was indicted on account of possession of a controlled substance in the first and faces 1 to 3 years for being in possession of methamphetamine when caught by authorities in March of this year. Minyard Stanbaugh of Sitka, Kentucky was indicted on account of possession of a firearm by a convicted felon and faces 1 to 5 after being found on February the 8th of this year to be in possession of a 12-gauge shotgun after having been previously convicted of a felony charge. All of these individuals, with the exception of one, ordered held on a $5,000 bond. Cecilia Maynard of Stanbaugh faces 1 to 5 on a bail jumping in the first degree indictment for acts that happened around March the 17th of this year. After she was released from custody by the court, she failed to appear as ordered later. Louisa resident Joey L. Thomas was indicted on account of possession of a controlled substance in the first degree and faces 1 to 3 on that charge. He was also indicted on possession of drug paraphernalia and public intoxication of drugs for being in possession of methamphetamine in February of this year, as well as having on his possession an altered straw and being under the influence of drugs in a public setting. Derek White of West Van Leer faces 5 to 10 years on a trafficking in marijuana charge that's 8 ounces but less than 5 pounds, as well as possession of drug paraphernalia and fleeing and evading police in the second degree around December the 24th of last year. He committed the offense in trafficking when he was found to be in possession of over 12 ounces of marijuana with the intent to traffic based on he being in possession of scales, and then he failed to stop and surrender to authorities when they tried to make an arrest, that being Deputy Fairchild of the Johnson County Sheriff's Department. A Staffordsville man, Timothy Hall, faces 1 to 3 years on a possession of a controlled substance indictment charge, as well as indictment charges of possession of paraphernalia and public intoxication. On July the 1st of last year, he was found to be in possession of methamphetamine and paraphernalia, including electronic scales, also being under the influence of methamphetamine or other chemicals in a public setting. And Paintsville resident Tatiana Bell was indicted on account of possession of a controlled substance in the first degree. That's a 1 to 3 year penalty on that charge, and possession of paraphernalia and public intoxication. On July the 16th of last year, she too was in possession of methamphetamine, possession of syringes, and under the influence of chemicals or drugs in a public setting. 2 people were indicted in complicity with each other for the same crimes or allegations. April Lane of Prestonsburg indicted on possession of a controlled substance in the first degree, complicity, and facing 1 to 5 on that count, and use or possession of drug paraphernalia. Around February the 6th of this year, she was found to be in possession of methamphetamine, baggies, scales, and a spoon, as was Jason Selvage of East Point, also indicted on possession of a controlled substance in the first, possession of paraphernalia, but he, being the driver of the vehicle in question, was also indicted on disregarding a stop sign. He was in possession of meth, baggies, scales, and a spoon, and then, of course, committed the traffic violations as well. Ned Davis of Lomansville faces 1 to 5 on a possession of a controlled substance charge. He's also indicted on counts of assault in the third degree of a police officer, fleeing or evading police on foot, and public intoxication. On December the 6th of last year, he was in possession of methamphetamine, says authorities. He caused physical injury to 2 police officers, that being Jonathan Holbrook and Officer Zach Stapleton of the Paintsville Police Department, and he disregarded their commands to stop and surrender before being arrested. Allison Fitzgerald of Louisa indicted on account of tampering with A prisoner monitoring device now faces an additional 1 to 5, and escape in the second, which also carries a 1 to 5 year penalty. Around March the 14th of this year in Johnson County, she intentionally altered or disabled or removed her electronic monitoring bracelet, or ankle bracelet if you will, and then fled her registered residence where she was being ordered by the court to stay on house arrest as part of her sentencing or bond restrictions. And Charles Collier of Sitka was indicted on account of possession of a controlled substance in the first. Faces 1 to 3 on that charge. He was also indicted on possession of paraphernalia. He was said to be in possession of methamphetamine, an altered straw to use the drug, and baggies. Also indicted were 2 other people for which we do not have mugshots this time. One was a James Castle of Louisville. He was also indicted in complicity with 2 of the before mentioned individuals, Jason Selvage and April Lane, on possession of a controlled substance in the first for being in possession of methamphetamine, and possession of drug paraphernalia for being in possession of baggies and scales and a spoon. He too was held on a $5,000 bond. The only accused being held on any more than that was a man being ordered held once apprehended on a $10,000 bond, identified as Philip McFadden of Paintsville, on charges of adult exploitation and theft by unlawful taking, $500 to $10,000, firearms. That's a 5 to 10 year penalty on the adult exploitation charge, and 1 to 5 on the theft by unlawful taking of a firearm. The grand jury alleges and charges that between January the 27th of this year and March the 2nd, McFadden committed the offense of adult exploitation by knowingly exploiting an adult, resulting in a loss exceeding $300, and that he also took possession of more than $5,000 worth of firearms from that same individual. And once again, ordered held on a $10,000 bond once he is apprehended. I'll be right back. Well, as I said, I've been on the road all day, but just in time to get the news together and just in time to find a whole lot of new announcements on tonight's McGoffin Farm Bureau community calendar. Just got this in, and it starts tonight and through Saturday night for revival at the Sagersville Trinity Full Gospel Church. That's revival nightly through Saturday night at 7, and then Sunday evening beginning at 6. Please join them. This is your special invitation to join them for revival at the Sagersville Trinity Full Gospel Church. In other announcements, this is a cool one, kids. A t-shirt contest. Sponsored and hosted by the McGoffin County Farmers Market Association. It's for all McGoffin elementary students. Make a design for a t-shirt for the farmers market. Submit your design at the Extension Service by the 19th of May. You could win a lot of pride by having your design put on a t-shirt and a $25 prize. 349-3216 if you've got any questions. The McGoffin County Tire Collection, I referred to it yesterday, and it's a few weeks away, so I'll just remind you periodically, but it has been set for May the 18th, 19th, and 20th in McGoffin County, down beside Rumpke on 460. If you have any questions, call the Judge's Office or the Solid Waste Coordinator, 349-2313 or 496-6179. But it's May the 18th, 19th, and 20th. This coming Thursday, a week from today, the Skywarn Weather Spotter class, hosted by the McGoffin County Physical Corps, actually by the McGoffin County Emergency Management Organization, but put on by the National Weather Service. They'll be here for 2 hours Thursday to train Skywarn Weather Spotters. This is free, and you don't have to register. All you got to do is be there next Thursday at 6. Water into Wine, their dates have changed. Their senior day is this coming Tuesday, the 25th, and their regular day, Wednesday, the 26th. And one thing that's never changed, you can get your announcements seen and heard here for free. All you have to do is make sure you get them to me. And it's birthdays and anniversaries, too. And remember, our show is always on, in case you missed it, on Howard's or Foothills, on our website at yournewstoday.com and our YouTube channel at Your News Today by Ritt Mortimer. And lastly, in announcements tonight, one last reminder about services to be held tomorrow at 1 for 81-year-old Maggie Mae Montgomery, survived by brother Dona Montgomery and a sister Betty Carty. Visitation this evening and prior to tomorrow's services, all from the Rock House Liberty Baptist Church. The McGoffin County Funeral Home is in charge of arrangements. On to your Licking Valley RECC outlook. I'm really hoping that 24 hours from now and 24 hours ahead of prom, I'll have some better news for you, but it's just not looking nice for McGoffin County students and their dates. It's just going to be rainy and wet and cold. Tonight, even though we've seen some sunshine and around 87 degrees is where I'm sitting right now, If you're catching the end of the early show here at the studio, we'll see 61 tonight, mostly cloudy skies, and we can't rule out about a 60% chance of some scattered showers and thunderstorms. That is mainly after 2 or 3 in the morning. So a nice dry evening in store, and that's going to be the last of it for the weekend pretty much. For your Friday tomorrow, we do have showers and thunderstorms likely before 11 and showers likely thereafter. Daytime highs will take a hit down to 72 under the clouds and rain. It's not going to be a complete wall-to-wall washout. There will be some breaks in between, more so tomorrow than Saturday, I'm afraid. And look what temperatures do Saturday. Still talking about right at 60. Might be even a bit optimistic. Showers likely. Can't rule out some thunderstorms. After 2 o'clock is when they really start to pick up, and then up until about 8 as far as thunderstorms, showers continuing even thereafter on your Saturday. I'm so sad to say, with a 48-degree nighttime low. Showers should start to end by midday or a little later on Sunday, with temperatures still around 62. I think by Monday, there's a 10% chance of some lingering showers before 7, but I'm hoping they'll all be gone by then. We start off next week on a winning note. 69 and sunny on your Monday, 75 and sunny on your Tuesday, and really no rain in sight thereafter for the next few days. The boys, that being the Hornets, are hosting Painesville tonight. They came up short last night against the Tigers at Painesville. I think they had a lightning delay or two. The end result was a 3-1 win for Painesville. The boys hosting the Tigers here at home tonight, which is, guess what, where I'm off to at this time. I'll have those highlights for you and other news when we wrap up this week tomorrow on Your News Today. Good night. Thanks for watching.